Yeah. What's going on, friends? This is MC Till. You are tuned in to the Boom Bap Chat. Super excited about tonight. We have a legendary guest in the building. We are going to introduce him in just a moment. But if you're in Cincinnati, Ohio, please make sure you support Everybody's Records over in Pleasant Ridge. They do some good stuff. They have records, tapes, CDs. They support the local music community. So we like to show them love. They have books for sale over there too. Speaking of books, they got this book right here, the Boom Bap Review, volumes 1 and 2 that I co-author every year. So check that out, please. And without further ado, I want to introduce, well, actually, let's introduce who's in the room, and then we'll get to the guests. As always, with me is Profound with the Wu-Tang in the background. What's up, Profound?
Man, what's good, MC Till? You know how we do. What's happening? What's good,
Yes.
IO?
Yes, and we have IO. What's up, IO?
What's up, man? Peace, man. Let's get into it.
Yes, and we have Neville in the background. Neville, how you doing, man? Yo, before Wu-Tang was Wu-Tang, this man was there. He was starting the movement. He was putting down incredible music, creating a reputation. He has been putting down music, not just back then, but putting out stellar music recently. He has a story to tell, and I think it's a story that's important because of the magnitude of what Wu-Tang Clan has become, and to get into the story of what really happened in the beginning and how important this man is to hip hop music. And so without further ado, we want to give a nice warm welcome to Pop Da Brown Hornet.
What's going on? Thanks for having me on the show. Pop Da Brown Hornet, Stapleton, Staten Island. Fire!
Yo, hey man, I'm really excited to have you on because I have to admit, you know, I was naive and young and didn't know any better. I'm from the Midwest. You know, learning about you and thinking Wu-Tang came first, and then having to unlearn that and, you know, kind of school myself on some things. And so I just really appreciate how, you know, you've popped back in the scene recently and have been giving interviews and just kind of laying it out. And, you know, just the integrity that I see in you when you're talking about the story and the different experiences and whatnot. It's just really good to see, kind of setting the record straight, kind of, you know, just sharing your story and your perspective on things. It's been really cool to see that. So I salute you and appreciate you for being here. Not, you know, you could be bitter and be like, but you're here, you know, you're here and you're making good music, you're making moves, and you're sharing your story, which I think is really important. So I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you. You know, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for keeping, you know, your finger on the pulse of my situation. Yeah, I came back, and it's just about my mind state when I came back. So many different things, but I definitely just wanted to turn the page and kind of start anew.
Yeah.
So regardless of what you know me as, and yes, I do have a history and things of that nature, and that's what allows me to build and be prevalent today because I have a foundation to build upon. So it's not like I'm just a brand newcomer coming from out of nowhere. It's like I've been in hiatus and I've reemerged. So with the reemergence, you know, I just wanted to keep the same traditional classical hip hop format that I've been using and just be refreshing and a refreshing different point of view. When you look at Staten Island for the last 25 years, you just think W. And there's so many different stories. I'm just happy to be one of them that can bring you back then and then bring you up to date.
Yeah, dope. Well, I definitely want to get into the moves you've been making recently for sure. I also think it's good, you know, you've been telling your story, but I think it's good to tell it over and over again because there's some people tuning in tonight that don't know it, you know, they don't know. So I think it's good to tell that story. So, you know, just kind of starting with like, you know, early on, I thought Wu-Tang Clan was like, that's it. It was just Wu-Tang Clan. It was the group. And then I realized like, no, it was a movement. There was like a Wu-Tang movement. Can you kind of talk to that difference between the group Wu-Tang that people know and then the movement that it came out of?
Okay. Yeah. So like back in the days, like anybody, when you growing up, 16, 17, 18, you know what I mean? That's when kind of like the Wu-Tang movement started for us. Yeah. And whether it was brothers harnessing their style, making different songs. So we was always in friendly competition with ourselves. So if somebody came up with a new style or a new slang, Wu-Tang was one of those things that stuck. GP or Gladiators, that's where, I mean, when you think about Stapleton, you know, the regime above us was the Parish Crew. Then we came Black Posse, then we became the GP, the Gladiators, and Wu-Tang came like that, just out of fun. Like when you're watching the karate movies and then us taking a slang and, yo, Wu-Tang, yo, let's go get a Wu juice. Everything became Wu. Our body movements, everything was like, yo, before you called Staten Island Shaolin, we called Stapleton Shaolin because we was in our own little bubble. We was in our Wu-Tang bubble. You know what I mean? So our rhymes carried the Wu-Tang words. So it was like when you have the beginning of the movement and we under the building and you doing Oriental moves, the hip hop songs. And like I said, when I said, yo, brothers, let's go get some Wu juice, you knew what two concoctions you grabbed to make that and form that. So it was more or less like our little cult little following, but it was corny to us. To the outsiders, it was corny, but to us, it was like, it was just the way of life. It was the slang, yo, Wu-Tang. And like I said, yes, we did grab it from the karate flicks. Yes, we did incorporate it into our rhyme pattern. So now that you have a movement going, there's movements of all over going on in Staten Island, not just the Wu-Tang movement. Like I said, we were Gladiators, we were Wu-Tang. That was in Stapleton. We were Parish Crew. Up in Park Hill, they had DMD. That was Dick 'em Down. They had BCC. You had the Avenue Crew. You had the Devil Posse. Now Park Hill, that's where Method Man, Raekwon, Inspector Deck, Capadonna. You know what I mean? I know I'm forgetting you, but they're from the Hill. Now they were more or less DMD during the time when Wu-Tang was really having a movement in Stapleton. RZA, who at the time, he was borderline because he was the guard. Most of the guards hung up in Park Hill. So that's why there was the Prince Rakeem. And before Method Man, he was Shaquan. And it was before Ghostface, it was Sun God. And before Raekwon, he was Shala. The guards was up in Park Hill. So Raekwon had a real, the RZA had a more tight bond with the guards from the Hill because it was easy to relate. You know, piece of the guards. Stapleton was wild. We was buck wild. He was smoking dust. We was we pulling. It was not a place really you wanted to come and chill. It was. If he was an outsider, he was basically an outsider. We fight amongst each other. But if he was an outsider coming from Park Hill, right wherever he came from, we held it down and we tried to hold that square down. With that being said, a lot of the Park Hill guys wasn't coming to Stapleton. It was like, we ain't fucking with them. They smoke dust and they be wailing. And I heard in the Hulu series, them Stapleton bum niggas, so forth. And this is where, so all these terminologies came, but we birthed the Stapleton movement. So at the same time, when the Prince Rakeem, when he was on Tommy Boy, and that single really didn't blast off, on that single was an A side and it was a B side. Yeah. The A side was the DMD side. That was for the guards in them up in Park Hill. That was Dick 'em Down. The Wu-Tang side was for the Stapleton movement and everything. That was the A and the B side for the Prince Rakeem. Oh, we love you, Rakeem. Right. It was the A and the B side. So that we all on Staten Island, we knew what it was. The A side was DMD. That was Park Hill. That was Dick 'em Down. The Wu side came from Stapleton. So that was on his single. When it didn't flourish, the Prince Rakeem, what did he come back? He came back to Staten Island and he regrouped. You know what I mean? He was no longer the Prince Rakeem because at that time, you know how the industry, they had the brand Nubians, the so forth. So the temperature of this hip hop shit was changing. Yeah. That positive rap was going out the window and the crack rap was forming. Yeah. So the clan formed. No more did you have the Prince Rakeem, you had the RZA, and all the guards changed their name. You didn't have Ghost, you didn't have Sun God, you had Ghostface. You didn't have Shala, you had Raekwon. You know what I mean? Still, U-God was like the only one who really kept his name. Yeah. So when that happened and they started forming and he started forming the clan, having this, RZA was like, yo, you get, like Meth said, yo, give me a year. If you still, let's make this music. In that year's time, if you ain't in a different location, blah, blah, you can go back to the streets. So they brought into it because the Prince Rakeem had his finger, his hands was wet already by being in the industry. So they kind of all fell in line. Now, I had an opportunity to be down with them. Yes, me and Ghostface was chilling one day in Stapleton. Same thing, rest in peace, Old Dirty was still Ace-On. And we was, chopping it up in Stapleton and we was selling Ace-On. Yo, the Wu-Tang movement started in Stapleton. And he was like, what? Yo, the Abbott, I thought it was started with the RZA. And Ghost was like, nah, God, yo, the shit really started here. So that night, Ghost was like, you might as well, get down with us before this shit really blow. So, there was a payphone on Broad Street in Stapleton and threw a quarter in the joint. RZA got on the phone and was like, yeah, peace, God. If you want to get down with the clan, you're only going to get 5% of your publishing because there's so many of us and we all agreed upon that. Now, prior to me getting to the phone, I was never in the studio with RZA and things of that nature. That wasn't my guy. My guy was R&S. Right. That was my go-to producer. So I had plenty of songs with R&S. So I was never really thinking about signing with RZA because I had too many other songs with R&S. But once I signed to RZA, all that goes out the window, and those songs he has access to because RZA, they know my songs. That don't make you a man. So what goes up must come down, so forth. And so I had songs. So if he already heard them and then I signed to him, he's going to be like, yo, bring that song to the forefront.
Right. And
how it's relevant like that is when the Clan came out, they came out with Protect Your Neck. The second song they came out with was Method Man. So when they came out with, hey, you get off your cloud, that's when the Wu really started blowing off that Method Man song. But
right.
He figured he only got 5% of that song because he had to break it down. So at that time, business-wise, I wasn't going with the Clan. I figured I'd take a different route.
Right.
But that was how more or less the Clan came into existence. The movement was there. It's just that I think RZA, in hindsight, when they got down, you either go with DMD, the Dick 'em Down Clan, or the Wu-Tang Clan. So I think the Wu-Tang Clan was more, and then they had the gimmick with the Chinese shit to go behind it. So the movement started, and RZA, I want to say, yeah, definitely infused it, but you can't pay homage to an apple tree without watering the roots.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because then that tree dies.
Right.
And so my thing with the Wu-Tang is the fact that it started in Stapleton. Method Man was talking to another individual about a month ago, and he asked him that, and Method said, yeah, that Wu shit started in Stapleton with the RZA and the Ghost, with RZA and Ghost. So just the admittance that he know where it started means a lot because 25 years later, when GP and all of us was barking like, yo, show Stapleton some light and show us some love because we started the movement. It was mum's the word. Now we got one of the forefront, Wu-Tang Clan members, admitting like, yo, this shit started in Stapleton.
Right.
And that's what I've been saying all along.
Yeah, and I mean that goes back to what I was saying early on. I think it's important. It's important for people to know, this history, and if you're not out there telling it, who's gonna tell it?
Well, definitely that. And like I've spoken before, like I said, everybody's prideful from where they're from. So I'm from Stapleton, Staten Island. I'm prideful of that. So if something didn't start where I was from, I'm not just going to jump on the bandwagon and say, I'm from where it's from, unless that's actual fact. Right. And I'm not going to get head 25 years later and still keep the same rhetoric. And you got to ask why I wasn't never challenged, why somebody never said, yo, Brown Hornet is lying, because they know my fingers more or less on the pulse of the truth than it is,
right.
Telling the story.
Because you had music out there before Wu-Tang, right?
Well, I have music out there in the street, never really.
Right, that's what I mean, like in Stapleton, in Staten Island.
Like, to bring it back, like I said, during the mid 80s and late 80s, R&S, who was more or less, like I say, the godfather of the Staten Island sound. R&S he had his ship already plugged in, so we would go up ours and we'd be making songs. I mean, ton of songs. Before Shaheem got on, we was up there making tons of songs. The UMCs got on because Haj G, being from Stapleton, went up to R's crib. So R had a lot to do with One to Grow On, Blue Cheese.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of that, anyway, the wind blow. R was infused the UMCs. He infused the Brown Hornet, infused Shaheem. RNS did Hey Ya Ho for King Just, infused him with that. I mean, ours list goes on and on. So yeah, I have music that don't make you a man's son. No more Mr. Nice Guy. What goes up must come down. Shattered Dreams. Shit is real, which Shaheem wound up using. I had I had songs that you could have picked from that I still have now that I, you know, that but definitely I was we was up in the, like I said, that this is the 80s we talking about. So the Wu didn't really come out to the early 90s. So we there. We you know, we in the cave, we making music.
Yeah, I love this history. I love hearing about this history, you know, from you that were obviously there creating it. So cool. I want to pause here. Profound, IO, Neville, any follow-up questions or thoughts on your mind from what we just talked about?
I'm just amazed that, man, like when you think you know.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Man, props to you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Just, just your story, period, man. Like, yeah, you thought you knew. You know what I mean? Because I remember having that first, that 36 chambers and thinking that was their, you know what I'm saying? That
when he said up from the 36 chambers, we have Ghostface Killer, Old Dirty Bastard, you God, you know what I mean? Shaheem the Rugged Child, Pop Da Brown Hornet. Now, say my name, and what that tells the world is he's introducing me, or I'm down with this regime. You know what I mean? Because trust and believe. If Pop Da Brown Hornet is coming out with an album, and I say profound, and I mention all of your names, but then you never hear from. I'm successful, but then you never hear from Profound. You never hear from MC Till. You start wondering, and if you do hear from them, it's not with me. You hear it from on their own. You know what I mean? So there was a separation from the start, even though he made a connection early by saying my name. He said several other people's names, but I'm still going on in 2021. He said several names from there that you might have heard, and they're by the wayside, but you still see me going on. That's when he calls cream rise to the top. I'm here for a reason. There's a reason why my story is being told. You know what I mean? Because like I said, I've been exiled out of their history, which is all good because I have my own legacy and history to stamp down. So I'll just block them out of my history and we'll just move forward.
IO, did you have something?
That's just interesting because like you coming up with Ghost, like why weren't you ever featured on any of his joints? You know what I mean? Like
when the Wu-Tang made the pact, you know what I mean? Yeah. They made the pact like this. Yo, it's us. It's that circle. Wow. Anything outside of us, and RZA, he's the head. So anything outside of us, he brainwashed them. It's a no-go. It's no features, no nothing. Wow. You know what I mean? So if you ain't down with this, it's no, and it's sad that it happened that way because like I said in the beginning, there were individuals that lend a hand. There was individuals that, like, for example, I used to be down with a coalition, that's SICC, with George Carter. And the coalition, that's a group of Black people that ride around and look for construction jobs. So we would mount up deep. This was in the early 90s before the Klan really, blew up as well. So George Carter, we would ride around in this big green van and we ride around looking for, construction jobs, putting us to work in the early 90s. And after we went shaping, the van would clear out and Download Record, who's down from the GP, he would take that van, snatch up Wu-Tang Clan members, take them to a practice facility in Port Richmond so they could practice their Protect Your Neck songs and all the other songs. But we took them in a shape of van. They didn't have the money. It was, I don't know where all of those, kilos and all of that was at that time. But we took them there and Download took them there several times. So it's like, when they was up and come, we got a show tonight, come through, God, support us, God, So we was there 150, 200 deep. You know what I mean? Stapleton, New Brighton, West Brighton, Mountain up, supporting them to help them get there. Right. You know what I mean? So you didn't just get there on your own. It's like the picture, we helped create that whole ambiance. When you were swarming, we swarmed behind y'all to propel y'all to a certain level.
So y'all essentially what was like y'all was the killer bees basically.
I was always the Brown Hornet, baby. I was never a killer bee.
No doubt, my
That's
bad.
straight. I was the Brown Hornet since the 80s. So all of that killer bee shit he talking, you know what I mean? It just says, did you steal more shit? Or did you, it's just ironic how certain things are symbolic like that. But I've been the Brown Hornet forever. So killer bee, I could never kill it. I'm not a Wu-Tang associate. I'm not associated to anything that I pre-existed. I can't be an associate of yours if I pre-existed you. You know what I mean? That's impossible. So one of my first singles that I came out with was called Can You Woo Woo Woo? And in those lyrics it was, can you woo 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 or is it just a front? GP the Grains here to give you what you want, baby boy, bow down. Listen to the sound of the dirty hip hop dug from deep underground. The days come for me to shine like the sun. The brown one, awoken by the warrior's drum. That's King Just. Awoken by the warriors. Who wants some? I'll tell you right now, let's get rugged wild. Watch me beat your ass like a stepchild. We all know who the microphone pro, rain, sleet, or snow. I'm out to get dough like a villain. Chilling like a night sickle, ready to get you. Respected like a fully loaded pistol. Sickle Shack, who the fifth borough out of, you know what I mean? Stapleton represents every time it has to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Staples, like, you don't know, man. This shit really infuses me because being there, seeing it, embodying it, you know what I mean? And seeing something that started in Stapleton, where I'm from, and becoming a worldwide phenomenon, you know what I mean? And a cult following. Yeah, it's like, I'm definitely proud of the accomplishments that they made, but I think that Wu-Tang, and I tell people the movement could have been so much better.
Yeah.
Everybody that was in the beginning was allowed to flourish.
Yeah.
The Shaheems, the King Justice, the Down Lows, the Rubber Bands, the June Lovers, the Now Born Clicks. There's so many that got suffocated because somebody, like the great DMX said, you know what I mean? Y'all been eating long enough now, stop being greedy. That's how Staten Island feels.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love this history, and we could talk hours and hours, but I know you do have another interview. You got a back-to-back double hitter tonight.
We gotta have him come back, bro.
Oh, I'd love to have him come back. But I do want to chat a little bit about your music.
Right.
I wanted to just kind of go through the years a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this album just briefly. I think it's a really good album, and every time I post it or talk to people about it, oh yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Can you tell people, like, how did this album come together? Because this, I think, came out in 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So this was like like you kind of jumped on the scene early on in the 90s or even in the 80s, and then it's 2000. Like, can you kind of share with us about how that came about?
Yeah, because when what happened was when I dropped the single Black on Black Crime, and the B-side to that was GP Connection that I had with DSA, Dark Skin Assassin. So when I dropped the Black on Black Crime and it was making the headway on, on the underground and it was bubbling, we wound up at the same time getting in contact, Hank Shockley and Daddy O with MCA wound up liking the Black on Black Crime, and then we have pushed my project as well as the GP music to MCA. And so when I made the Black on Black Crime, they grabbed it, they regurgitated it, they pushed it back out there. And instead of maybe me coming out with a solo album, Brown Hornet kind of fell back and was lost in the sauce with the GP, the group, per se. So I came out with GP, the Grain, first with Down Low, Rubber Bands, June Lover, and myself. And, just wanted to try to establish the group. Yeah. But in hindsight, maybe from Black on Black, I should have came out with the album first and then came out, because that's how a lot of them do it. You got Tupac and the Outlaws, or you got Biggie and the Junior Mafia. You get 50 and the G Unit, so it could have been Brown Hornet and GP in hindsight. You know what I mean? But at the time, it was like one for all for one. I just figured we winning numbers, and let's come out with a group, and I could just wait for my solo album. So the GP album came first, and then I came with the Underground Emperor, which was on Smoke Records / MCA. It was distributed through MCA as far as distribution was concerned.
Man, that song Follow Me Up. I love that joint, man. Just the way the beat comes in, it drops, and you're rhyming on it. It's just
You know what's so crazy about Follow Me Up, right? I was just, just being hip hop-ish and this. It wasn't really a hook, but it was like, you follow me up because I was on Smoke Records and there was a lot of artists that were supposed to be coming behind me. So I was just more like, you follow me up, son. That's why I had Down Low. And, I just was keeping it in mind that this was the beginning of something great and that we would just be falling in line with more greatness. So it was like, follow me up. But look how I did a song like that. And then all of a sudden you got the internet and everybody's following each other. You know what I mean? So it was like, I was on to something then without even knowing, but it was just like a freestyle, follow me up. I'm like, yo, follow me up, son, because I'm going in. I'm about to tear this up lyrically. So, make sure y'all behind me.
Yeah, it's dope. It's a perfect blend of just, fun lyrics over really dope, fun track, really good song.
And one thing about me when I rhyme is just like, even though we can rhyme about so many different things, but at the particular, like, I just want to rhyme. When you hear when you want LL, Mama said knock you out. Those are just lyrics. You ain't talking about holding the block down and I got crack in my pocket or I'm sipping this and I'm popping the pill. And this my album, that album, Underground Emperor album, from that song, Follow Me Up to so many other songs is just lyrical content. That's when you had to be an MC.
Yeah, so walk us through, that came out 2000, and then what came out after that? I know the Four-Man Mandela came out a couple years ago. Was there anything between that I missed? Okay, what was happening during those years?
Now, during those years, from after the album and wasn't successful, I went back to living a regular life. Currently, like I do now, I'm local 731. That's the laborers union in New York City. So shout out to all my union workers out there.
Yep.
Making it happen. But after the MCA and everything more or less failed, I went back and I went to work. So I've been working just, ever since then. Always, writing, maybe doing a little mixtape stuff here and there, always doing songs. But nothing substantial to where I came out with The Emperor and the King, Best of Both Hoods. About 4 years ago, me and King Just, we got together. And I grabbed up KJ and I said, yo, because back me and KJ go back to high school. So back in high school, King Just used to run up on me and be like, yo, we're going to do an album together. And, during those years, it never happened. So us just being in Staten Island and always bumping into each other, timing was everything. And as the social media became big and things of that nature, it was like, yo, this might be the time to make a resurgence. Let's blow the dust off these mics and let's make a project together. So me and King Just got together and the Best of Both Hoods, Stapleton Park Hill, The Emperor and the King. The name of my first album was The Underground Emperor. And of course, he's King Just.
Right.
So it was The Emperor and the King. And we came out there just to say, you know what? All right, we still got it in us. You know what I mean? And we can still put something together. And there's hip hop fans out there that, and like I said, and that's when I really made my social media. I wasn't doing Facebook. I wasn't doing any of those things. To me, that it was irrelevant to me. So, but once I made the Facebooks and things of that nature and started making music, fans from all over started getting, and yo, I'm glad to see you coming back. Yo, what's up? Is there going to be a solo project? So when I put The Emperor and the King, Best of Both Hoods, Phantom of the Beat, aka Haj G, was already working on music of his own. But he got a whiff for that album when it hit me up like, yo, you back at it? So I'm like, yeah, what's good? He's like, yo, let's work on a project. So
nice. That's
how Foreman Mandela came about. I grabbed George Foreman, Nelson Mandela. I grabbed both their last names and made Foreman Mandela. So Foreman, of course, we know once he was knocked out by Ali, it took him 17 years to get that belt back. But he stayed the course and he got that belt back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's dope.
Nelson Mandela, locked up for over 27 years. When he got out, he still became the president of certain parts of Africa. So he didn't let time defeat him. Brown Bomber embodied that. I'm Foreman Mandela. So it was going on 20 years since I dropped my solo album in 2000, like you said.
Yeah.
And then, a couple of years ago, here came Foreman Mandela, the independent, solo joint. So I didn't let time defeat me.
Yeah.
I'm right back at it like I never lost, like I never left.
Man, that's dope. I didn't let time defeat me. That's dope.
That's so dope. I love that, man. That joint cold.
And that's for all of us
Yeah.
All of us, we all know, we sit back, some of us contemplate, yo, should I, what if I, what, and I couldn't sit back and say, you know what, yo, Brown Hornet, he's done for, and you know, I mean, I could have, you know,
Right.
but I would have been doing the hip hop world an injustice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the hip hop gods kept coming and tapping on my shoulder like, yo, come on, man, spit it out there, let the world know. And now, you know, because somebody asked me, what do you like back then or now? And it has to be now because back then, it was structured, you know, the record label, and they'll tell you when you had an interview, and then the people behind the scenes can more or less dictate and control what you say, and your A&R wants to dictate and have creative control of your music. Now I'm making music like I did back in the 80s. I write a rhyme, I spit it out, and I throw it out there.
Yeah.
Now I'm able to talk to my fans and reach out. I'm able to have interviews with individuals like you.
Yeah.
That wasn't able to be done back. My voice was hushed. So whenever I talked Wu-Tang back then, it was like, oh, you're hating, you're just mad. But now it's a story that wants to be heard because it's like, hold up, is there more to it? And of course, yes, there is.
Yeah. Yo, that's dope. I'm glad you're back because you have, you know, your lyrics are dope, obviously. And you have one of the illest voices in hip hop, just a good voice, you know, and different. It's set apart. You have a unique voice. And obviously, like we've been talking about. Yeah. And obviously, like we've been talking about, you have a story to tell that I think is important for the world to hear. So I'm glad you're back, man. I'm very glad.
Welcome back. Bro. Well, you ain't never left.
Right. You
still here. You stayed the course. You know what I'm saying? Foreman Mandela, bro.
Foreman Mandela. I love that imagery, man. Foreman
Mandela. That concept crazy, bro. I love that.
It's just like an inspiration to us because, like I said, in life, we're all thrown off course, and sometimes we may take it as we're cursed, but that's just the higher power putting you through whatever trials and tribulations you have to go through in order to make it through that storm and come out a stronger individual.
Yeah.
So it's not about me being bitter. You know what I mean? I look at it, if you don't like me, you must not like yourself because I'm a likable individual. You know what I mean? Hip hop is nothing but healthy competition. So, but if it causes you to suffocate my sound that much, then obviously I must be a threat of some sort. That's how I look at it if it's not welcoming me with open arms. Because, and if anything, if you want to put on for your city, you should want the best to represent your city, not just yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So bringing it up to more recent, you just released a single and a video with the Force MDs, which is super dope, called Daydreaming. Can you kind of chat a little bit about that song and video?
Yeah, Daydreaming. It was a song that I had like probably in the cup for like 3 or 4 years. I actually wanted to do with my sister, but you know, one thing led to another, and it just sat in the back of the archives while, you know, other things were being worked upon. So I think me and the Force MDs and us, we were at a couple of ventures, and the word was kicked back and forth a couple of times. Yo, we should do a song together. We should do a song together. And I had wound up doing their talk show not too long ago, you know, at the tail end of last year. Yeah. And, you know, Khalil brought it up. Yo, we should do a song together. So, and I was like, well, I have one that's a no-brainer. So Daydreaming, of course, you know, it's an old Curtis Blows jump off. Right. And it was written by so you standing in the rain, what's his name? Well, anyway, it was Curtis Blow.
Orange Juice Jones.
Orange Juice Jones wrote that Daydreaming. And so, you know, I didn't know Orange Juice had wrote it, but to make a long story short, we got up in the, you know, I got up with them. We did the song. The Force was kind of reluctant at first. They was like, yo, boom, boom. And I was like, listen, Daydreaming, everybody daydream is a universal song. It's a feel-good song. You know what I mean? And it was definitely something to scratch off my bucket list to be able to do a song with the legendary Force MDs, because we Staten Islanders, especially myself, I love history, and I felt like, you know, they don't really always get their just due. Sometimes they play in the shadows of Staten Island history. So I would, you know, it would have been a great feeling just to be involved with them in the new millennium, 2021, to see a song with Pop Da Brown Hornet featuring the Force MDs. It's like, you know, that's a beautiful feeling just to know that I've been anointed by the legendary Force MDs from Staten Island. And they don't do songs with everybody. They don't do songs with a lot of MCs and rappers. So, like I said, definitely a blessing coming from out of Staten Island to be able to do a song with them.
Yeah, and who did that beat? Did Phantom of the Beat do that one?
Phantom of the Beat did it, and he had a little bit of help with one of the individuals, one of the members from Five, was it Take Five or one of them?
Okay,
I think it was one of those guys that was that helped with the music. Like it has that R&B feel. So yeah, he kind of infused that. I forget his name off the top of my head, but yeah. But
yeah.
Phantom got that boom bap feel to it, of course.
You know, there's so much more I want to get into. There's a You God put out a book that I read, and he was just kind of, you know, describing what it was like growing up and the drugs he was into and selling drugs and the violence. And I was just thinking, reflecting on like the fear that people were living in, constant fear. And so there's just so much I want to get into and ask you about, like your upbringing in Stapleton and all that. So if you're ever interested in coming back and spending more time with us, we would love to have you back and just pick your brain, get more of your story out there and talk more about your music. We would love that. I know you have another interview to get to, so I don't want to.
Please, please come back.
Hey, but listen, that's no problem. We can set that up.
Okay, great.
Whatever the case may be, we can follow it up sooner than later. So we can really, like you said, just indulge and keep it moving, because whatever questions you have, like I don't want to avoid any. And I don't want to give the impression, like I said, the Wu-Tang Clan is definitely legendary and have a cult following. There's so much more to Staten Island history to it than that, and I just want to make sure that, you know, it's just fully understood that we just have a lot of talent out here that we just want to see flourish. That's all.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And I want to talk more about the Force MDs and RNS and his involvement. You mentioned UMCs. We've had both of them on the show. I want to talk about them. Maybe we can get them on and you on at the same time and just have a Staten Island show, you know.
Yeah.
That'll be dope. That'll be dope.
Dope. Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to him, see if we can make that happen. Is there anything that you want to tell the people before you have to go tonight? Anything you want them to check for or follow you online in any way?
Well, yeah, you know, you can follow me on Instagram as Pop Da Brown Hornet underscore the grain related. So that's Pop Da Brown Hornet underscore grain related on Instagram. Pop Da Brown Hornet on Facebook. Like I said, add me to your playlist, Foreman Mandela. I have several videos. You can go to YouTube off the Foreman Mandela album. There's several videos that's up there. Daydreaming, the brand new one with the Force MDs, videos up on YouTube as well. Add me, stream me. Thanks for having me once again. And like I said, I would love to come back before this year is out anytime soon. I'm available. Let's make it happen.
All right, we'll do that. We'll do it. And thank you for your time tonight. And before you go, what's the other program you're going to be on so people know about that? Do you know? If you don't know, that's fine. You're good. You're good. You're good. No worries. No worries. That's better for us. That's better for us.
Pop Da Brown Hornet, Stapleton, Staten Island. Thanks for having me. Signing off. Fire.
Yeah, peace, man. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Pop Da Brown Hornet giving us that good history, Wu-Tang history. Yeah. IO, what'd you think, man? I know you're feeling that.
Amazing. Just not enough time, but definitely on point. Glad that he was like filling in the blanks, and it's important. It's so interesting. We had these conversations about people who are in power get a chance to shape history, right?
Right.
It's in power, they can shape history how they want to, but that may not necessarily be the true history. So that's just a living representation of that. You know what I mean? So it's just good to just hear his story. I wish we could have got more in depth, but like he said, he's coming back. So I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah, no doubt. And I know, oh, my bad, Neville. Neville said he had 2 questions. I knew we were running up on time because he has another interview to get to, but I'm glad he was so excited about coming back. So that's super dope. And I like the idea of getting the UMCs in here too. And you know, that would be dope too. Profound, what were your thoughts, man?
Man, I'm just was stunned. You know what I mean? And you know, I'm the history cat too, man. I like to know that history, and yeah. I mean, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, like I remember, man. And shout out to my brother, man, Corey Walker. Shout out to my brother, because that's how I got the 36 Chambers album when it first came out on this cassette. And man, like I had no idea, bro. Like, you think man. That's what's so
Yeah.
crazy. You think and then because I was so engulfed in the whole Wu-Tang thing, you know what I'm saying? And even in the album, you think you really know them, by listening to
Right.
this music and all of that. And you don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
I
stuff.
mean, to that point, like I remember getting, I didn't know. I got this album, that we talked about a little bit. And I remember thinking like, oh, this is an offshoot, like he's an offshoot of Wu-Tang, which the opposite is more true. The Wu-Tang Clan is more of an offshoot of Pop Da Brown Hornet and what they were forming there, And so, yeah, I said it so many times. I'll say it again. I think it's real important to have, that story be told. It's important history. I just so you know, I'm gonna go to Neville next to share some highlights, but we're gonna welcome in YGT here, and we're gonna chat with him just for a moment. A little surprise guest tonight that has something to share with us. But Neville, what were your takeaways or your thoughts about tonight?
Oh, well, first thing I had a question is, what year was that that album released, the Pop the Brown Hornet?
Yeah, the one I showed that we talked
Yes.
about, 2000.
Okay. For some reason I thought it was like mid-90s, late 90s.
He was out. He had music out then with GP Woo and other stuff like locally. But yeah, that album came out in 2000.
Because I remember seeing that album like in a mag, either Double XL,
Yep.
something. I saw it advertising, and like you said, I thought it was like an offshoot of Sons of Man, right?
Right.
Them all of the assassins, whatever, all of that. Like I thought it was those crew.
Yeah,
But what I wanted to ask him, I guess, just to footnote it here so that I don't forget.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to ask, I don't remember where I heard this from, so I don't want to misquote anybody, but I heard that there was like a ban or a cease from like record labels that they couldn't sign anybody that was outside of the Wu-Tang Clan from Staten Island. And that's why there's nobody from Shaolin other than UMCs who came out before, previous.
Right.
Since then, and I don't know, remember, I don't, like I said, I don't want to misquote anybody, but I wanted to ask him about that. He said that no question is off the table, so that really made me want to ask the question more so. That was question one, and then question two, I think, just want to know, like, what does he want his legacy to be? Like, what song would encapsulate, or what album would he think best represents him in the canon of time? Because right now he's talking about a rewrite of history, right? And he has to like rewrite his own because it's been rewritten. So it'd be interesting to hear what he would want to go down in history as.
Yeah, good point.
I don't necessarily think it's a rewrite for him. You know what I mean? Because I feel like Wu was in a position to rewrite it. You know what I mean? They rewrote it. History is, you know what I mean?
I think it's a clarification.
Yeah,
it's a clarification. He's not necessarily rewriting, but we need to rewrite it in our own heads.
Exactly.
Because it's been told to us a certain way. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
You know what I'm saying? Like Christopher Columbus wasn't a discoverer; he was a colonizer.
Right. I think that's what I think. I mean with him. And the take. I don't know. Are we doing takeaways or that's?
Yeah, you can share a takeaway.
My takeaway was that thing that I think everybody really, that really resonated with everybody was when he said, "It's never too late," or the Foreman Mandela thing.
Yeah.
The prodigal son has returned, or whatever. It's like, listen, man, no matter what, like if what's due me is gonna be due me. Whatever the truth is, it shall set you free, and it will come out eventually, regardless of how much it's buried under the sands of time. It will get revealed, if you stay persistent and true to it. So I think it also represents like the voice for the voiceless. Like you said, whoever's in power controls the narrative, but then sometimes you have to take that back by any means, and technology now has allowed that because now there's less gatekeepers.
Right. And that's why even though he's been asked that question a lot in interviews, our audience might not have heard those interviews yet. So it's like important to just tell the story again and again and again. So you all tuning in, you have probably noticed that a new face has popped up on the screen. We have YGT here. What's up, man? How are you? You there? Oh, you're still muted somehow. We can't hear you.
Y'all hear me good?
You're real low, so if you can turn your mic up, that would be good.
You know what? Let me get my headset real quick.
You're good. You're good. Do your thing. Do your thing. So YGT is here. We're gonna announce to the world why he's here. Also want to announce the winner of the remix contest. Last week we had Samson Zulu on the program. Had a nice chat with him. He and I put out an album called Lion in the Jungle. The first single off that album, Lion in the Jungle, we did a remix contest for. A bunch of producers jumped in, made some really dope remixes. And we had voting, and the voting has stopped. And the winner is the Crisscross remix. Now, this isn't Crisscross, the rap group from Atlanta. This was Crisscross, producer. I forget where he's out of, but he has won. He had a really dope remix, just real smooth. He even remixed the hook. He had a female MC on there, Smooth Sailing, come in and do the hook. Just a really, really great remix. So he won $200, $200. And some marketing help. So we're going to be getting with him to try to help promote what he has going on. So congrats. Hats off to Crisscross. Thank you for your contribution. And to all the DJs and producers that submitted remixes, we appreciate you. And we'll hopefully do it again soon. All right, YGT, can you hear us now?
Yes. Do I sound good now?
There we go. Cool.
Right, cool. For sure. What's going on, guys?
Peace,
Oh, man,
bro.
we just chatted with Pop Da Brown Hornet. And I had a really
I
good,
saw the last couple minutes of it.
Yeah, had a really good conversation. So, so next Thursday we are going to do something different. Next Thursday, instead of having our normal Boom Bap Chat here like we normally do, we are going to put the feature, the spotlight on what YGT does. Can you explain a little bit what you do, and then we'll share about what we're going to do next Thursday?
Yeah. So, I'm all about hip hop too, just like I'm sure all of these gentlemen are as well. On my YouTube channel, YGT Records, I talk all about, hip hop music, album reviews, just, a lot of the stuff that MC Till does as well. Do you want me to speak on the actual video we're going to be doing?
Yeah. So next Thursday is going to be a different night. We're going to premiere a video. So it won't be live. It'll be a premiere video that goes live at 10 p.m., but it won't be live. So yeah. So what's that video going to be about?
Yes, so on that video, it's going to be all about Planet Asia, super dope MC. I hope most of y'all are well aware. And if you're not, the next Thursday, you're definitely going to get put on game to one of the illest MCs in Cali.
Yeah, it's going to be super dope. So typically YGT, you do like, how long are your joints? Like 3 minutes?
Yeah, they're pretty short. I like to keep it, just real concise to the point, get you right out. But yeah, about 5 minutes. This one was definitely like the longest video I actually ever made.
Yeah, this is like, usually you just do one. This is like a mega mix. So it's going to be a bunch of joints. Yeah. So, so that's going to be cool. So that's next Thursday. Coming up later this month, I'm very excited. We have the Scribbling Idiots in here. If you don't know this crew, they are a dope crew. They got MCs from all over the world that are down with this crew. And I don't know, there's like 20 of them. But I think we got 6 of them. And there's not 20. I think there's like 9. But anyway, we got 6 of them that have committed. So this is going to be a full room here in a few weeks. So excited about that. Fellas, anything else we need to chat about or discuss before we do our shout outs? Anything coming up? Anything that you want to promote or tell the world about?
We do it in the shops, man.
Shout outs, yeah. There we go. Cool.
We do it in the shops, I guess.
YGT, we always do shout outs at the end. So you can think about your shout outs, and we'll swing it over to Profound to go first.
You know how we do. Shout out to the Boom Bap Chat, my crew. And shout out to YGT. Nice to meet you, bro. Shout out to Neville, Till, and Io. My children, of course, Amir, Zakir, Rosalina, Daima, Ariel, and Elijah. BlueSunUnlimited.com, that Profound collection for the Love album shirt is available. Get your shirt. They've been going like crazy, a whole lot better than I expected. So man, shout out to everybody that's got a shirt and showing love and supporting the brother. I surely appreciate it. And that's it, bro.
Word. IOMOS, what shout outs you got for us tonight?
Man, shout out to Boom Bap Chat family, Pro, Neville, Till, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man YGT. Thanks for coming through, bro. Shout out my people in Chicago. Want to shout out my brother Dante at the Negro League. You know what I'm saying? Go check out the Negro League gear. TheNegroLeague.com, based out of Chicago. Shout out my family in Detroit. What's the irony? My brother Ron and my family in the T-Dot where I'm at now. So, you know, it's all love, man.
Right on. Neville, you got some shout outs for us tonight?
Yes, I'm having a problem with the mute button here. You know what's interesting? I've never done this one before. I'm gonna give a shout out to all the therapists, mental health practitioners, psychologists, psychiatric nurses, psychiatrists, marriage counselors, blah blah. I've never really done that before, but I do want to give a shout out to the profession, those trying to help people in need. And I never really done that. So shout out to that. And that's what I do. And then what else? I want to just shout out to the family, friends, everybody, man. You know who you are, too much to name. And last but not least, I just want to shout out Lucia and Empress Rose from the Clubhouse crew. That's it. Peace. Oh, Boom Bap Chat, Boom Bap Review, everybody's Hiphop Label.
Yes.
Wu-Tang, for real, and Pop Da Brown Hornet.
Yes. YGT, who you got shout outs for tonight?
Right. So first of all, shout outs to you, MC Tip, for bringing me on here. Really do appreciate it. Shout outs to the whole Boom Bap Chat. Of course, to IOMOS Profound. Good to meet you two brothers right there. Neville, of course, you too, man. And most importantly, big shout outs to Planet Asia. We're going to see next week on my debut for y'all. So absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Sure. Planet Asia.
Heck yeah. He's dope. Yo, I want to give definitely dope. Man, a lot of shout outs. I want to shout out Pop Da Brown Hornet, obviously. Can't wait to get him back on here and just have some time to sit with him and chat with him. Shout out to MJ for making tonight happen with Pop Da Brown Hornet and making so many other guest appearances happen. Really appreciate you, MJ. Shout out to you. Shout out to Neville, IOMOS, Profound, and YGT for being in the building tonight. Appreciate all of you. Let's see, who else? Shout out to all the listeners that tune in on Facebook and on the podcast. Really appreciate you all checking in. Shout out to the Boom Bap Review. If you don't have your copy yet, go to boombapreview.com and you can check that out. And I think that's it. So on that note, we say peace.
Peace.
Peace.